Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sex with Ashley. I am Ashley. And so today I have Miss Mikki Bey. Hey, Mikki.
Hey boo, so good
You
to
know,
see you.
this is not on topic, but I love your last name. Is that your last name, Bey? It's like your
It
legal
this
last name?
yes, that is my birth last name.
I love that. I didn't know it
Thank
was a name
you.
that you just kind of came up with, but I like it.
No, it's funny because in today's culture, everybody's bae,
Hmm.
right? And I was checking into a hotel, and the lady was like, "No, no, no, we need your real last name." I was like, "No, no, no, this is my real last name." So yeah, it's real.
How many Beys are they? Are there like a lot of you guys? Where are you from?
Yeah, so it's actually a Muslim last name. So it's actually pretty prevalent in the Muslim religion. So my dad was Muslim, so I'm a natural Bay. I was born a Bay. And I love my last name. It goes so nice with Mickey, right? Mickey
It
Bay.
does. It does. Yeah, that's that got nothing to do with what we're talking about. But I
It
just
don't.
I always thought about that. I was like, I love her now. I wonder if it's made up. But
No,
it's not, it's yours. So
it
cool.
is mine. Yep.
So we are talking about emotional
Regulation.
regulations. I thought emotional regulation and how that affects people's sex lives.
Correct.
So first of all, Mickey, first of all, tell us about who you are, how you got into emotional regulation, and like a little background. Then we can go into.
Yeah. So I'm a life coach. I specialize in emotional regulation. And, how I got into it is that I hit a wall. I was in corporate. I was also running my coaching business at the same time. I had a very new baby. I was married. I had a lot of different things going on in my life, and I was stretched too thin. And I hit that proverbial brick wall and had to stop doing everything. I literally had to opt out and just say, okay, how do I get myself back on track? And that's when I found emotional regulation. I've been coaching on emotional regulation for the last 5 years. I've been a life coach for the last 9 years. And I really think that this is a skill that everyone needs. I always say it's a soft skill with hard consequences, because if you don't learn how to regulate your emotions, there are a ton of consequences that could happen, up to and including jail and death, right? And so, it has consequences across every subject in our lives, and it's probably it's given the least attention.
Okay. So let's talk about it. So what does that even mean? So what is emotional regularity? What does that mean and why should we care?
Emotional regulation is basically your internal environment versus the external environment. So the reason why I said it's a soft skill that has hard consequences is because, say for instance, you get pulled over by the police and you're upset that you've gotten pulled over and you're unable to regulate yourself enough to just give the information and, whatever, that could turn into you not making it home. And in this day and age, that could turn into you not making it home whether you regulate it or not. But you see my point, right? And it's a skill that we all need as we're navigating the world. So the way that I think of emotional regulation is being able to steady how I feel regardless of what the outside stimulus is, right? So there's something that's happening on the outside of my body, and I have to decide what, if anything, that means to me. And so your brain only has three options: positive, negative, or neutral. Those are the only potential options that your brain can decide that this thing is in front of you. So my job is to get you to understand that you do have a choice. That's an automatic response that's happening based on what's programmed in your nervous system. So based on your trauma, your experiences, all of the things that you have been taught in your life, that is how those three decisions are being calculated, and it's in a split second. So if you don't know that and you're just programmed for a negative response on a certain subject, and that subject happens to happen in the world, like I'll give you one of my triggers. One of my triggers is disrespect. You could be in a grocery store and get disrespected, right? And so if I don't have the ability to manage myself internally, when disrespect shows up, that can go real left.
So, okay, so disrespect is different from everybody. So, and sometimes people don't know that they may be disrespectful.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, how do you let people know that this is a boundary trigger for me if they don't know? Like, how do you tell somebody this is you're being disrespectful? Like, how do you tell somebody that?
So boundaries are really about how to keep yourself safe. And
Okay.
so when we're talking about boundaries, I may have an internal boundary for myself that I don't tolerate disrespect. And so what that means is I say to myself, you know what, I can give you a real boundary that I have, self, to be called out my name by anybody. So I'm not the girlfriend that's like, oh, hey, bitch, da-da-da. No, I don't do that. So I'm going to call you Ashley, you call me Mickey. right? And so that's a boundary that I have. And so if that were to happen, I would just say, hey, Ashley, girl, we like this, but I do not allow you to call me out of my name. I would prefer if you just call me Mikki. And if you can't call me Mikki, then I may have to end the conversation early, or I may have to remove myself, because the action piece has to be on me, not on you, because it's not about controlling your behavior. It's about keeping myself safe. That's what a boundary really is.
Okay, that's good. Songstress Vivian Green.
Yes.
She's a song that goes, I am on an emotional.
Yes. That used to be my jam.
Yeah. I was actually dating a guy. I was saying a nigga that was putting me on an emotional roller coaster. Like, it was so relatable at the time.
Yes.
So let's pivot for a second to like how this relates to relationships and sex. So how can our emotions and our mood swings affect our desire for sex?
Oh my gosh. It can affect it tremendously, because your nervous system can only be in survival or surrender, not both at the same time. And so if your body is in survival mode, there's no way you're going to be able to just be a receiver if we're talking about like penetrative sex, right?
Okay.
That is not, your body it's on the inside. You can imagine like your nerves kind of standing on end. And then in order to really receive pleasure, you have to be regulated. So that is one of the, to be turned on, to have a turned on nervous system is to have a regulated nervous system.
Okay.
And so you actually are not experiencing getting turned on if you are still in that survival mode mechanisms. A lot of that really, really important, because then you get into, if you're in a fight or flight stance on the inside of your body, just because the sex is happening, it doesn't mean you're not having those responses. So for instance, if you're fawning, that means you're going to be in a people-pleasing state in sex. So there may be something that's happening and you don't feel comfortable saying, oh, I'm not into that. You're not comfortable, giving a strong yes or a strong no inside of the moment, because your body is already dysregulated. So you're going to respond the same way you respond out of sex in sex. So if you are a fighter, you might get angry if somebody touches you a certain way, right? You might really like want to square up because something has happened. Or if you are a person who generally, when conflict happens, you want to flee the situation, you want to get out, you want to just, not be there. You could dissociate from your body and just, numb out, and you're not there. So the emotional regulation is really a key point, because it's not just about foreplay warm up. It really isn't. You really have to get to a place where you're emotionally regulated enough, because that's really foreplay for your soul, so that you can calm the inside of your body down enough to even enjoy the pleasure that's being presented, that you're participating in.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. So in order to get to the place where you feel safe or comfortable, that's vulnerability. So emotional vulnerability. How does so it's a two-part question. One, how can someone get to the place where they feel they can open up and share that? And then how does that create deeper connections?
Okay, so I'm gonna give a personal example on this. So I've always felt that the sexual dysfunction, I'll call it, that I experienced inside of my sex life was a physical issue. So I would think like, oh, I just don't have enough foreplay, or, oh, I need to use this toy, or I need to instruct my partner to do this or do that. That's only one piece of it. If we're only attacking it from the physical perspective, you're missing out on so much pleasure, right? Because in order to really get to a place where you can have an amazing orgasm, or you can really enjoy eroticism and be really turned on in the moment, even if it doesn't lead to orgasm, it really does come from being emotionally safe, first in and of yourself. Emotional safety in your own body, outside of like the other person that's there. So creating safety inside of yourself is an internal job that the person has to do. And then hopefully outside of the bedroom, you've created some emotional safety with your partner to be able to have those types of conversations. And I know you, as a sex educator, probably run into it a lot, where people are not even having conversations about sex with their partners, right? So you're not even ever getting the intel that when we're having sex, I'm not there. I'm dissociating. I'm thinking about the laundry I have to do. which is typically, and I'll speak for myself, when I was in a situation where I did not want to have sex, I thought that it was low libido. I thought that, oh, I just don't have a desire for it. But really and truly, my body was so stressed out for a number of different reasons that I couldn't get turned on because my body was in survival mode, right?
Right.
And so we have to understand that it's all connected, and that if your goal is to really have a fantastic sex life, you cannot skip emotional regulation.
So how do you communicate that with your partner? How do you say I'm disassociated, like I'm not present? Because if I'm going to be open up and be vulnerable, I have to be able to share things with my person. So how can someone communicate that? How do you create a safe space to be emotional vulnerable with your partner?
Yeah. So again, I think that starts outside of the bedroom. I think that you assess if this is the type of person that you can really be that vulnerable with, because it's not always true that the person you're having sex with is someone you can be vulnerable with emotionally. And so I would start that conversation well before we get into the bedroom. And also, I would make sure that they understand that this is about me and not about you. And so with that being said, this is an experience that I'm having on the inside of my body that I would like to give you information about. Are you open to that? Because I think people would not want to share for fear that the other person is going to take it personally, that the other person is not going to understand. I know for me, I had a lot of shame around and so that goes into it too, because I was thinking, well, why am I the only one that's not into sex? And all of my friends are hanging from the chandeliers. Like, what's wrong with me? But we don't realize that unprocessed trauma and unprocessed emotion is definitely a barrier to getting to a higher libido and to enjoying the sexual experience. If you have unprocessed guilt, shame, a lot of us have shame around sex, right? And so that's really important to get that out. And then also betrayal. Have you been cheated on in the past? Have people lied to you? Or do you feel like you've betrayed yourself? You've gone over your boundaries so many times that you're not even sure if you trust yourself to select a partner who is going to be there for you emotionally. So there's so much that goes into this, and it's not just, am I able to have the act of sex? It is really, because good sex is going to involve all of you, you know, the mental, the emotional, physical. It ain't called sex magic for nothing. Right? Like it can be magical. It can be a very spiritual experience. So I think to really just put a bow on how you have the conversation is you create the expectation that we talk about sex, that we talk about our sex life. And I want you to tell me what your experience is. I'm not on the inside of your body, right? So I don't know. I can presume. And I think on the woman's side, if we're talking about just like heterosexual sex, there is often the presumption that the sex is good for the man because they ejaculate. And from what I hear, that is not the truth.
Yeah, I heard.
And so we make also a lot of assumptions on both sides. I think they're assuming, and we got to stop faking it too. Like if you're not orgasming, it's going to be such a cognitive disconnection for this person who believes that you are orgasming every time, and then you tell them you're dissociating from sex. So I think the transparency and the honesty has to be at the forefront. And then you invite them into that and just say, hey, there's some things that I really would like to share with you around our sex life. Can we set some time? And I, tell you what's happening for me when we're having sex, and you can feel free to share what's happening for you.
So let's talk about emotional baggage. Like, so let me say this. I think everybody, no matter how you were raised, if you were raised with good parents, ones that weren't so good, two-parent household, middle class, rich, whatever your status is, I think everybody grows up with some type of baggage for something, right? Because there's no a rule book or guide really to like raise children. People out here just winging it.
Yeah,
Exactly. Especially the oldest, like me. I was a test baby, but she know what she was doing.
Not the test baby. I heard that.
I was a test baby. She ain't had no clue. Like, it's the first time being a parent. My parents' first time being a parent. I'm their first child. That we were all out here just winging it. Cool.
Yeah.
So everybody has like some type of baggage they take into adulthood from their childhood. Everybody does. So how do you tell people how can people deal with that so it doesn't affect their relationships? Because I see sometimes people say on the internet, especially with like, so we're at this like black woman, black male, I feel like we're kind of like at each other's throat, kind of like attacking each other. And I hear a lot of, on the internet, a lot of people say, women, oh, we're going to therapy, we're doing our work. And they're like, well, black men they just don't. They're looking for people to be their mothers and to like do all these things. They didn't go to therapy, right? And so there may be some truth to that. But what do you suggest to people who are, have all these emotional baggage, and how can they not let their emotional baggage affect their relationships?
Well, everybody got to carry their own bags. It's that simple. I mean, you don't get to come into a relationship knowing you have all this emotional baggage and then offload it to your partner. Okay. You have to take responsibility for what you're bringing in to that relationship. And, not even just for the relationship's sake. If you have all that emotional baggage, why do you want it? And so, you have to be like, one of my rules for myself, like as I'm dating now, as I'm newly divorced, it's a prerequisite for me that you're doing some type of personal development. I'm way too deep in this stuff for you not to do any work on yourself. So if you're not in therapy, or you're not doing coaching, and you're not reading books, and you're not watching YouTubes, and you're not doing anything, like it's going to be a no for me, dog. I can't do it.
Okay.
I can't do it.
So do you, sorry to cut you off, do you believe that everyone should be in therapy?
I think that therapy is right for some people, and for others it isn't. I don't think there's one way to heal. I think it's just as vast as we are. I think some people, like most of my clients, I'm a coach, most of my clients are also in therapy. We do completely different things. And so I think it's about what you need, and I think it's about the synergy and the energy that you're getting from that therapist. All therapists are not going to be a match for you. All coaches are not going to be a match for you. Even that process of knowing who to look for is important, right? So for me, I'm gonna always have a coach. I'll be in and out of therapy. Like for me, I feel like therapy is much more from the perspective of, do you want to be this person? Why are you this person? Like, why are you the person that you are today? And that's not really the question I'm seeking to answer. The question that I seek to answer and help my clients answer is this the person you want to be? Because who gives a fuck how you got here? We here. So let's deal with, the present and into the future, as far as, I don't believe you have to go back in order to change what is current and present. And whereas therapy is going to want to go back to your childhood and figure out why you are the way that you are and all that kind of stuff. And I think that a lot of therapy is about holding space versus holding accountable. And coaching is really about holding you accountable to what you say you want and the changes that you want to see inside of yourself.
So, yes. So I used to date this guy who needed a therapist. I know you like, some people don't need therapy. He needs a therapist. Mm-hmm. And I told him that one day. I was like, you need to go see somebody. And he was like, I don't need therapy, right? Because he was like, I talked to my brother. His brother's not a therapist. But for him, like, he felt like talking to his brother was how he kind of like, I guess, got his outlet or someone to talk to. In hindsight, at the time, I was like, your brother's not no therapist. You need to go seek professional help, right? But, now that I think about it, I think, that probably was a good way for him to, to kind of like emotionally regulate and to figure out what it is, get his thoughts out and have somebody listen and all these things. I've seen things where I've heard stories where people say like, oh, the gym is my therapist. This is sidebar, but it's not. Chat GPT, people use it as therapy now.
And I have thoughts on that. Yeah.
So I think that is, I don't want to use the word weird. That's not the right word.
Literally, people are sending me stuff every single day. Like, oh my God, do this and do that. Here's the thing. Insights are great. It's not that people can't get insight. Right? You can get insight, and ChatGPT it's going to take the information up that's available in the world. So of course it's going to be great, right? However, knowing the information and being able to embody the next version of yourself is completely different. So it's not just about getting the insight. It's not about just getting the book knowledge. There are plenty of people who have the book knowledge of what's going on with them that are the same decade in and decade out. So it's really not about that. And that's why I said, for me, I think coaching is a wonderful tool, because not only do you get that kind of practical, tactical side, right? Which is why people like ChatGPT, because it's going to take, for lack of a better term, the symptoms, and it's going to be like, oh, okay, this is what I see based on whatever information is available in the world. And of course it's going to resonate. You just gave it all of the criteria, right? So I think you know what, it can be helpful. AI is a great tool, but again, not everybody is going to be able to just take that Chat GPT readout and change their lives from it.
Yeah, most people probably are not.
Most people are probably not. And the reason is because, so what the work that I do is nervous system work. The reason you are not able to just change like that for most people is because it is a programmed response that is inside of your nervous system. So if you're not doing nervous system reprogramming, you're gonna be in this constant loop. However you have handled these types of situations in the past are going to keep a different face. You know how you date the same person over and over and over again and he just got a different name? That's why, because there is something stored inside of your body on the subject, right? So that's really where you want to get professional help, whether it's coaching or therapy or whatever modalities.
So this is related but not. So trending currently is the girl on TikTok who hired a dating coach.
About this, tell me.
Oh, okay. So this is a black girl. She spent $10,000 dating coach, and she got engaged. I think it was like in maybe a year. Mm-hmm. So she did like these TikTok mini story series about it, and so it's all over Instagram and Facebook and TikTok for the last week. And so people have their this mixed feelings. Some people feel like, and so the rumor was that she went on 170 dates. Mm-hmm. To find her guy. So the guy wasn't a matchmaker, he was a coach. And someone was like, so people were like, well, why would I pay $10,000 for a coach? Like, I need somebody to, if I want to pay $10,000, they're like, well, give me a matchmaker and who just does the vetting for me. That's a thought. And then some people was like, why would I pay $10,000 to find a man? That's some people saying that. And then you have people some people don't think, why pay $10,000 period, right? Because someone said you can listen to a coach just like he gave her advice that you can listen to your girlfriends and get. So you pay money that all your friends are giving you.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was with you all the way up until there.
That's what they were saying. That's what the internet's saying now. This is not me. It's what the internet's saying. And so the internet was like, well, like, why are we doing this? Your girlfriends give you, now granted, like, so let me say this. Over the years, I've had friends who have given me great advice, and some advice was indeed factual. And sometimes it takes hearing something from somebody else who has no investment in you for it to be like, dang, maybe I am stupid, right? Because like when your girl tell you, it's like, you just don't like him. You know what I'm saying? It just comes off differently. Like you just don't like him. But then like when somebody else who's like, don't know you from a can of paint, you can just take it in better.
Yeah. I mean, the messenger matters. For sure. I think that there's a time and a place for girlfriends and friends and brothers and sisters to support and to give advice. And then there's a time and a place to seek professional guidance. You asking a person that will hire an expert to learn how to clip my toenails better, so I believe in getting people who are experts in the field for what I am trying to accomplish. So I lost a lot of weight. I hired a trainer. I have a chef. I have people who are experts in these areas where I am not an expert, and I'm able to pay to leverage their expertise. So I don't have to go out and figure out how to count macros. I got a chef that does that for me. I don't have to go out and figure out which workouts are gonna sculpt my body. I have a trainer who does that for me. It's the same thing with hiring a dating coach or hiring an emotional regulation coach or whatever. This person has an expertise. And I think that's really, the question you're asking me is really about a value system. And one of the things that I tell people is, if you show me your account, I can show you what you value. And so it's really just, you don't think that you're worth spending $10,000 on something that is intangible. And because what I am selling, you would have to buy into the vision of your A to B in order to hand over that $10,000. You would have to believe that A, you can get to B, and B, you would have to believe that I could get you to B. Right? Mm-hmm. That I could plot the way for you. To be quite honest, it's not for everybody, because most professional development is gonna start at $10,000 and up, right? Mm-hmm. It just is. And there's a very good reason for that. because again, we are trying to reprogram something that is invisible. And in order to get your buy-in for that, we have to get something that you value. And 9 times out of 10, and Ashley, you know, I've been coaching a long time. I've coached at many different price points. When I was a coach that was charging in the hundreds and in the low thousands, those people were not as committed as the people that pay me 10,000 and above. They just were not.
No,
They just were not. The results are better. One of my best clients paid me a sum of the most I've ever made. And it's a reason, because, and this is the thing I always tell people too, when it comes to investing in personal development, it's only a waste of money if it don't work. Same thing for the dating coach. She got her end. You think she care about?
Yeah. She
On to the wedding, baby.
I'm like, well, it worked. Technically,
it worked. It worked. So it's, you know, I think it's relative in what you value. I mean, I value getting to the outcome as quick as possible. And usually, in order to get to an outcome as quick as possible, you need somebody who's been there. Don't get a coach who doesn't have the results you want. The coach that I pay, she a $12 million coach. I am not a $12 million coach. I pay her because she a $12 million coach and she can tell me how to get to 12 million.
Right.
It's simple. Why do I have to recreate the wheel? No, you already know how to do this. Give me the blueprint and let me do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so for people who are feeling emotionally all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And so what tips do you have for them to get back in the place where they can feel confident and present in their sex lives?
Awareness is everything. You really have to start observing yourself, observing your thoughts. It starts before you get to the bedroom. What are your belief system around sex? You might find that your belief system is women don't deserve pleasure. Mm-hmm. You don't know, right? I mean, you might be under the belief system like I was, that when I was married, I fully went into marriage believing whether I wanted sex or not, it was a duty, right? Mm-hmm. It was something I was supposed to do. So if he tapped me, I roll over, right? That's what and so I think the first thing you have to do is ask yourself, like, what is my belief system around sex? And what is the goal? What is the goal I'm trying to achieve in my sex life? And the reason why I put it in those terms is because, like, for me, my goal isn't orgasm. My goal is connection. My goal is pleasure, right? My goal is exploring what feels good to me and learning what feels good to me. That's enough for me, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's really about understanding what you want the outcome to be, and then being really honest and transparent if you are having partner sex. Like, don't choose people you feel like you cannot have conversations with. But first, create your own emotional safety. That's nobody else's job. That is an internal job that you have to learn how to feel safe on the inside of your body. Because if you can't find safety without the person, you're not going to find emotional safety with the person.
So I was over here trying to get to this book, right? So this book I'm reading, it's called Good Sex.
Yes.
Yep. Candace. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so in this book, you was thinking about for you, good sex is about being connected. It's not about orgasm, right?
Correct.
And so one of her things in here is some of good sex is satisfying. Did you come to get? Did it do what you wanted it to do? And I was like, that's good. So sex doesn't have to be always about, did I have an orgasm? Am I satisfied? Like, whatever my intent was, did it deliver? Did I get what I came here for? What I intended it to be? Did it reach that goal?
You know what? I think we have to expand what we call sex as well, right? And I'll give you credit for opening my mind to this. This was probably like a year ago. You had done a post about all the different types of orgasms you can have. Uh-huh. And that really opened my mind. I was like, wow, you can have a nipple orgasm? Like, I want to try. I want to see if I can get there, right? Like, what's that about? And I think that that's important to kind of just blow the lid off of what we even think is sex. Because, like, for me, and I identify as asexual, we didn't even get into all of that. But for me, the connection piece, man, like, you could spend all day, like, really just creating that anticipation with me and building it up with me, and then we get to the moment where we're physically together and I'm so like, oh my gosh, like just ready to burst and you ain't even touched me yet. That's really the experience that I want. I want to feel desired. I want to know you want me. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, no questions asked. And so I think that we have to really expand and get creative for what we are even calling sex, because it's not just, bumping uglies. It's not. It's so much more than that. And I think we sell ourselves short on the experience when we just go to it's the actual physical act of sex.
So there's this thing called outer course. Inner course is like penetration.
Yep.
And then you have outer course, which is the opposite of penetration.
Right.
And so like outer course is like the touching, like, using your hands, the kissing, all that stuff. And the whole point of that is that sex just does not have to always include penetration. It can include other things. So there's some people for various reasons who aren't able to do penetrative sex. So does that mean that just because they can't have penetrative sex, they can't have sex?
No, I mean there's millions of types of sex, right? Yeah.
There's different types of sex, yeah. So that you don't, sex is just not penetrative. Sex is just not just focused on orgasms. I think you have to figure out what works for you and do some research and figure out why are you here. Like, I'm here because I want to be intimate or have more intimacy with my partner. I'm here because I want to do whatever. And then did what you do deliver on that? And if it did, then there you go.
And you know what? The last thing I will say around the regulation piece is you can also co-regulate. So co-regulation could look like you do a breathing exercise together. You could stretch together beforehand. You could just lay on top of each other. I had a partner once. I thought it was amazing that he just asked me to literally like lay on top of his body. Mm-hmm. And that's co-regulation, like literally heart to heart and like my whole body pressure on top of his body. And we just like laid like that for like an hour, just to feel that connection and that intimacy. And so co-regulation is a really, really amazing, I would say, technique that you can use out with the intention of getting to sex and also without the intention of getting to sex. If there's been a rupture in the relationship, I highly, highly suggest co-regulation, which could be eye gazing, which could be, physical touching. I like to do it where your legs are on top of each other's legs. So you're kind of sitting face to face. So you're sitting face to face and your legs are on top of your partners and you're just eye gazing and breathing. That is co-regulation. And if there's been a rupture, a serious or even a small rupture, that's a great place to just like really get into somebody's like soul. Like to me, it's very like, it goes below the surface and is really, really a fantastic tactic to use.
Good. So, Mikki, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest place to find me, because I'm on Instagram every day, is IG at Get Mikki Bey. You can also send me an email, info@getmikkibey.com. But on all platforms is Get Mikki Bey.
Don't you have like a retreat or something coming up?
I do. I have a retreat in Bali. We're going to be going to Bali July 20th through 26th. I'm doing an emotional regulation retreat there. So if you go to the link in bio in my Instagram, you can find all of the Bali information as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mikki.
This is so fun.
You're welcome.